Representation. It's a part of me. It will
Well, welcome everyone. My name is Kwok. I am a grief therapist. I am a stuttering advocate, and I'm one of the founding members of SPACE.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Christopher Schuyler, he, him. I am a stuttering advocate, a disability rights attorney, and a board member for SPACE. Welcome to SPACE. SPACE to create a celebration of dysfluent art. SPACE is a nonprofit organization creating a more inclusive world for people who stutter. We use the power of the arts to directly support people who stutter and shift society's understanding of stuttering. At SPACE, we believe that when we learn to listen well to people who stutter, you'll learn to listen well to everyone. You can find out more about SPACE at spacetostutter.org. What is stuttering? Literally, what stuttering is a neurological disability which results in prolongations and repetitions and blocks in our speech. What is stuttering actually? That answer is different for everyone who stutters. For me, the answer is always changing. Looking at you all here today, what it is it's a miracle, really. This is to hear my voice in this room. It is something that I didn't know was possible. And so stuttering is a doorway.
And so today is about shifting the way we listen. It is about changing the way we experience communication in time and space. Jerome's billboard says, people who stutter can create time. And what a responsibility that is, but also what a privilege and what a power. And all I can think about right now is that stuttering is truly prayer. It is intentional. It It is connection, it is gratitude, it is guidance. Stuttering is a phenomenon. Stuttering is how I communicate with myself and how I communicate with this world. Stuttering gives me peace. Stuttering gives me wisdom. And stuttering gives me struggle. And so stuttering is sacred. And I think above all, stuttering is greater than me. Stuttering is greater than you.
This event is in celebration of Disability Pride Month. Yesterday was the 34th anniversary of the passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act. The ADA signaled a shift in the way society views disability. The traditional view of disability was that it was a defect within the individual, something to be cured. That resulted in people with disabilities being pushed to the outskirts of society and carrying shame. This shift in the way disability is viewed into the social model of disability no longer views the defect as within the individual, but rather a defect within society to not take care of people and to accommodate people. And with the shift to the social model of disability, people with disabilities are invited to fully participate in society and to feel a sense of pride. All of this applies equally to stuttering.
And so this event and the installation of stuttering art in the room next door makes up the largest exhibition of stuttering art ever presented in North America. And this afternoon, you will have the privilege of seeing 10 exceptional performers who stutter of all ages, presenting a wide spectrum of art, as well as a short film produced with our friends at Keep or Destroy. And throughout the musical performance, you will also hear musical excerpts from Overt, which is a new sound art composition by Wyland over here, and Method's Body that features the voices of people who stutter, including over 12 SPACE members from all around the world. This performance will take around an hour and a half, more or less, depending on how much time we need to stutter.
Finally, some big thank yous to share before we begin. First, a huge thank you to Jerome Ellis for asking SPACE to partner on this event. We are so grateful to you for trusting us so deeply and for the way that you change every person you connect with for the better. You teach us how to navigate the world with kindness and curiosity. Thank you to the Whitney for platforming dysfluent voices and for all your generous collaboration and partnership. Thank you to Liiiam and Laura. I could use a glass of water. And Laura, for your diligence, patience, and your commitment to help share stuttering stories.
And thank you to Kelly Boyana Sarika and all of the Whitney staff for all of their hard work to make this event happen. And thank you to Yi and David at Blade Design for making sure all the art was printed so beautifully. Thank you to Julia Leone for all of her outstanding graphic design and work on the installation. Thank you to Luke Wyland for helping to craft this performance and for sharing his creativity so freely. And thank you to all of the incredible performers and artists who have shared their voices and their stories. And finally, thank you to everyone watching here and online, and for everyone helping to create space for stuttering today. Now enjoy the show.
Hello. Hello. My name is.
Hello. My name is.
Hi. My name is.
Hi. My name is.
Hi. My name is. Hi. My name is. Hello.
Hello. Hello. Hello, everyone. Hello.
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 Hello. Hello. Hi.
Hi. Hi. Hello.
Hi.
I just feel like it's better for me to just tell people I stutter and like, yeah, that's how it is.
Well, everyone's voice is different.
Sometimes my stutter is like the wind. It's unpredictable. And sometimes it's stronger than others. The wind is a beautiful thing too.
Well, I wish people knew more about the time that a person needs if they stutter. Because not everyone is that fast with their speech.
I think being a great listener means it means holding the space, and I think it I think being a great listener also means that it is a back and forth.
And it's giving people the chance to talk, honestly.
I feel heard if someone's really listening to me well.
When I am stuttering, I'm really going through it. It is all of my my insecurities, it's my hopes, it's my dreams, it's everything consolidated into this moment of stuttering. And I think that in order to give it that justice, I want someone to hold that space, and I want someone to be there with me and receive it. That space between my words is not empty.
That space is mine to fill.
That space is mine to fill.
That space is mine to fill.
It's a part of me.
Silence is all around me. All eyes are on me. All my senses seem to heighten as I focus on the moment. I clash internally with my mind as it tries to overwhelm me. It is as if a ghostly figure steals the breath out of my body. I feel cold and afraid. Everything around me turns to black. Am I the only one who feels this way? The storm raging inside deals no confidence to how I feel on the outside. I feel like a deer in headlights. I pause, and I'm stuck in what seems like an infinite moment. 1 second stretches out into 1,000. Time is a concept that everyone references but doesn't understand. Each passing minute eludes me as I speak. Why do we always rush to get things across? Why do I always want to rush to speak my mind? Should I just stop and throw in the towel? But if I give up, what good does that do for me? This feeling of rushing time is what creates an intense feeling of falling in an abyss. Speaking has become a great challenge. The feeling that I'm eating up the time of others that surround me overtakes me often. I want to hide away so that this feeling does not bother anyone else. I keep fighting back, but the feeling intensifies. The feeling of 1,000 hands pulling me down under overwhelms me. I hear the voices begin to speak.
Give up. Just stop.
I let myself go and become one with the moment. I break the chains that hold me back. I stop talking and take a beat, returning my focus to what lies ahead of me. I try again, conveying my message to the world. Thank you.
Texture of but different and the curtain to rise.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Listener's Guide to Stuttering.
We stutter. You listen.
Okay. I'm Ezra. I am co-chair of the board for SPACE. I'm obviously a person who stutters, and my pronouns are they, them.
Hi everyone, my name is Mira. I'm also a person who stutters, and I use all pronouns. Ezra, are you excited for this?
I'm pretty excited. It is so wild to see so many people here. You know, I look back at like when I was in third grade, and we had a school play, and I was really excited because we were like the younger group for it, but I got to have 3 lines in the play, and I was like, oh, this is awesome! I'm so stoked. And during the rehearsals and practices, the classmates' moms who were doing the play kept asking me, are you sure you want to do it? Are you sure? Like, are you sure? You don't have to. We can not have you in it if you prefer. And it was very clear to me that stuttering was not welcome on stage. And I did still really want to do it, but it was causing so much more tension and fear. And it just was more of a struggle than it had to be. And by the time we had our play recital, they had cut my 3 lines down to half of a line. And it really made me think, well, I guess people don't want to see stuttering. They don't want to hear the way that I talk. And by the time I got to high school and I wanted to sign up for drama, but I thought, I mean, what's the point? No one's going to let me be on the stage. So this is a pretty big difference.
Yeah. Ezra, I just want to start by saying I'm sorry that happened to you. That sucks. And I have a few stories about being on stage too. I've done a lot of plays on stage before, especially Shakespeare, and I've always been so nervous and self-conscious about what if the audience won't want to hear me talk? What if they don't want to hear my stutter? And that's been really scary, but I'm so glad that you all came tonight, especially to hear people who stutter and how that's so powerful and different, and thank you all for that.
Yes, this is definitely a stage that not only allows for stuttering, but invites it as well, which I just think is a really special thing for everyone to have the privilege of witnessing. So, Mira, you think the audience is like totally ready to be listening to stuttered voices today?
Well, let's see. And no matter what, let's give them some advice.
Okay, we're going to go to the first slide. We have a little presentation for you. So this is something that Mira and myself and some other people worked on as part of our space arts programming that we did this spring. And one of the main things we really wanted to make sure was communicate to everyone was like, let's address some of the stuttering misconceptions that we see sometimes. These are not all of the stuttering misconceptions. That would keep you guys here all day. We're just gonna go over a few, and they're really, really common ones as well. I have a feeling that some of these have already been like unraveling as we've been listening to stuttered voices, but we'll go over them just in case. One of the most popular misconceptions is that a lot of people think that stuttering can be cured. And a lot of this comes from a few things. Part of it is that, you know, there's a lot of children who stutter who do grow out of stuttering as they get older. And there's also a lot of children who stutter who become adults who stutter as well. And a lot of people hide that. And people see that hiding and they think that it's a cure. A really good example of this is James Earl Jones. Darth Vader has a stutter. I don't know if everyone knows that. I didn't, because I've never heard him do it. And when you read about him online, people often talk about him having overcome a childhood stutter. But in interviews, he says he is currently a person who stutters, and hiding it isn't a cure. You know, just because we don't see it constantly in our faces doesn't mean that it's not there inside of us all the time. So that's the first one. The second one is a twofer for you guys. I made myself flip the pages so that I don't like speed rush through all of this. Two more common misconceptions. People who stutter always stutter, and that we all know what stuttering looks like. So people think, okay, well, like I heard someone stutter on like certain words or this, but then I didn't hear them stutter this other day, so maybe that means they're faking it, which is very strange for me as someone who grew up with a stutter to think, why would we be faking this? But a lot of us get accused of that. And then people think this isn't what I know. You know, I've seen Porky the Pig. Like, I know what stuttering looks like. But that just means we miss a lot, because stuttering is extremely variable in how it looks and how we're responding to it, or just in how it naturally comes out. And you guys will definitely be seeing that tonight. It might not look like what you're used to, and that's fine. And also, stuttering changes from person to person, and also as one person. Like my stutter is different one day to the next, and it's why it can be really frustrating when somebody says, "Wow, you did a really good job. You didn't stutter," because I think, well, I will next time. You know, it's like I don't know what you're gonna hear next time, but like that, it can kind of be hard to hear. And you would think, well, okay, but at least the professionals should know that this is a myth, right? I'll let Mira tell a little story on that.
Thank you, Ezra. Yeah, when I was about 4 or 5 years old, my mom took me to my very first speech therapist. And in the 20 minutes that I was there, this speech therapist didn't hear me stutter and assumed that my mom had made my stutter up. And that and a lot of other combined experiences has led me to the knowledge of, like, some qualified professionals just need more education on stuttering. And yeah, that's just how it is. And especially on how stuttering is variable. I've gotten compared to Porky the Pig before because that was the only stuttering representation I imagine that person knew of. And that should change.
And then the third common misconception is that all stutterers want their stutter to be gone. You know, this is a pretty common one out there that people will think, well, who wouldn't want to have like perfectly fluent voice all the time, right? But what you'll find is that people who stutter have a wide range of ways that we relate to our stutter. You've already seen some, and you're going to see more. Like, there are some people, they take comfort in being able to hide their stutter or use certain techniques, either that they learned in speech therapy or on their own. And then you meet other people who find comfort with their stutter by doing so openly and inviting people into listening to the way that we have communicated our entire lives. And you get such a vast array of what people experience when they stutter and how they feel and what they think about it. And there's no one mindset that people who stutter have. Not everyone who stutters has their fingers crossed all day, hoping that one day things will be different. We've learned to love and appreciate the way that we sound as well. And we'll go to the next slide. Okay, well, I hope your expectations have changed a little bit. And now we're gonna talk to you guys about your role in this and some listening.
Yeah, next slide, please. Okay, these next two slides are about hearing and listening. And I imagine when you hear those words, you might think, oh, those are very similar things. But I found that actually that they're quite different. Hearing someone may look like being tuned into the conversation, but not noticing the person and their actions themselves. When someone stutters, sometimes people who haven't encountered it before might jump in with something like, oh, are you okay? Did you forget what to say? And this is probably not what the person wants, because they probably know what they're going to say and are just taking the time and space they need to say it. And hearing and listening are very different, because when you're listening to someone, they will hopefully feel listened to and respected, versus when you're only hearing them, you might not be respecting their time and their space as much. And if you see this icon right there, there's a person talking, and it's kind of like bouncing over the other person's head. They're only hearing them. And next slide, please. If you see this one, the person's talking, and it's really sinking into the other person's brain. And that is the difference of hearing and listening. Listening to someone and being aware of what's happening in the conversation, in my mind, is a lot better than only hearing them, because when you're listening to someone, you might notice something like if they pause. And if you're really listening to someone, you might notice that the pause is actually stutter and that they don't need suggestions. And last slide, please. And stuttering, it's just talking. So all you have to do is listen. Thank you so much, everybody.
My body to finish my sentence.
Hi, my name's Carmelo. I wrote acrostic poems that were based around stuttering. The words I chose were time, unique, and stutter. I hope you enjoy. An acrostic poem puts more words into one word, kind of like stuttering. For the first one, I wrote a poem called Time. Try to give others time when they want to speak. It's the number one thing people who stutter need. Make sure you don't finish their sentences or interrupt them. Everything can still relate to love. Thank you. Next, I wrote a poem called Unique. Unity for all. Never feel let down by others. Infinite happiness for everyone. Questioning others' differences is something we'd never do. universal love everywhere. Everyone has a chance to change the world. Thank you. For the last one, I wrote a poem called Stutter. Small things can make big differences. Time will always matter in everything we do. Unity will always matter in everything we do. Try not to be afraid to be different, to feel accepted. You should always embrace your differences. Respect your differences too. Thank you.
My voice has value, and that speaking differently from other people is okay, and my voice is my right. My voice has value, and that speaking differently from other people is okay, and my voice is my right. My voice has value.
Thank you so much for your music, Luke. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so happy to be here. It's such a unique space. I feel so welcome as a person who stutters, and yeah, thank you for being here. My name is Jen Lamoureux. I'm a person who stutters, a speech therapist, and a PhD student at the University of Montreal in Quebec, Canada, up north. And my thesis is about stuttering representation in the media. I'll tell you more about my project later. For now, I want to start about a story of representation, a story of marginalized voices in the media. Next slide, please. And I want to start by telling you the story of the play Les Belles Sœurs by Michel Tremblay. Les Belles Sœurs can be translated by the sisters-in-law or the beautiful sisters. Michel Tremblay is a playwright from Quebec, where I come from. And when Les Belles Sœurs was first played in Montreal in 1968, it was highly controversial. Why? Because it was the first time that joual was represented on stage. What is joual? It's the Quebec form of French spoken in Quebec. And it is not today, but at the time it was seen as like street form of talking, slang, and joual incorporates English word into French. And at the time, in the 1960s, joual was stigmatized. It was seen as an improper way of talking French, as inadequate. And most importantly, as inadequate for such a formal space as was theater at the time. In the 1960s, when you would go see a play in Quebec, you could expect something very formal, classical genre, like a Greek play, formal costumes, and Quebecois people on stage would suppress their Quebecois accent, try to speak in a European French way, because, well, they were probably ashamed, and the way they were talking was seen as inadequate for the stage. And Michel Tremblay thought, this makes no sense. It's boring, this sort of, like, the accent that we use is not even European, it's not even us, it's nothing. We should just talk like we talk. And so he said, Next slide, please. He said, we're going to stop being ashamed and we're going to make everyone speak like they do in real life. So that's what he did with Les Belles Sœurs. And at the time, he, well, as I said, it was highly controversial. He lost funding for his work from the Minister of Culture herself, who said, this is improper French, we cannot fund this work. But now, Les Belles Sœurs is seen as a landmark of Québécois culture. It's played internationally. It has been translated in many languages, and Joual is celebrated today. Next slide, please. And so this is me, and now I'm gonna tell you my story. So this is me when I was 8, and my sister Anne, who would probably not be happy to see her picture right here. And so I was 8 on that picture, and in elementary school, I did theater and improv. And when I was on stage, I was not stuttering, as some people who stutter do. It happens for some people who stutter not to stutter when they play a character. And when I was a child, I found that very liberating. And then I started high school, and I also wanted to do theater and improv, but I lost this ability. And I was so ashamed that I stopped everything altogether. It wasn't even a question of, oh, maybe I could ask the teacher, is it okay? How do you see this? It was just like, okay, it's impossible. Yeah, so that was sad. And then I grew up, and in my early 20s, as many people who stutter seem to have in their early 20s or when they're adults, I had a turning point in my life where I became more acceptant of my stuttering, to the point where I was like, hey, I could become a speech therapist with my stutter. So I did, and then I was like, hey, I want to do a PhD. And with my PhD, I thought, like Carmelo said, everybody can change the world, so maybe I can too. And maybe I can create a world where little Jen and other people who stutter would not feel, oh, I have to stop everything because I cannot hide my stuttering anymore. So I decided in my thesis to create resources and training for media professionals to raise awareness, awareness and offer training on how to create space in media for stuttering. And one project in my thesis is to interview media professionals, so media people, and ask them, to you, with your expertise, what do you think are the obstacles and the solutions to these obstacles to represent stuttering? And the people that I'm interviewing, it's a very diverse group. There's journalists, TV producers, documentary and film producers, actors, and so on. And some of them have a disability or work with people with disabilities. Others don't even know what stuttering is and have a very traditional role and vision of the media. And so today I wanted to share some of the ideas that emerged from these interviews, but I have to tell you the project is not finalized yet. I have more interviews to do, and these ideas are, the analysis is not finalized yet, but these are ideas that are starting to emerge. Next slide, please. So, yeah, let's start with the obstacles. What do they say? And these, these of course, are, to me, misconceptions and structural problems. So it's not because of people who stutter, but the structure that they're in, you know. So the obstacles that people say is that stuttering is seen as a perception, is seen as a disruption in the rhythm. So they say, well, people are used to a certain rhythm in dialogues, and stuttering can disrupt that. There's also airtime constraints. So if you write a play and it should be an hour long, or you're working in the news and someone paid for an ad to play at this exact time. It's like there's really a lot of the relationship we have with time in the media is highly strict. And then training, if you want to go to drama school or journalism school, there's standardized speech courses, and that can feel excluding for people who stutter. And then the broadcaster biases. So broadcasters say, well, we believe that the audience is not ready to hear stuttering yet. Maybe people will feel uncomfortable. Some people can fear that including stuttering in their program is a risk, that some people might stop listening, switch channel, And to me, it's kind of heartbreaking to hear this, but I tell them, I'm a person who stutters, but I want to know the truth. Tell me what you really think. And then the solutions. Next slide. And what I see in my interviews is that people who have a disability themselves or work with people who have disabilities are much more open and creative in the solutions that they offer. And people who are less open, I've heard things like, well, maybe people who stutter could have courses on how to control their stuttering. And I'm like, okay, but that's not what I'm really looking for here. But I stay neutral, of course. I laugh in my head, but so the solution, they say, we can co-create the rhythm with people who stutter. So if there's an actor who stutters and they have to play this role, when we can explore with them, how would that sound? And I mean, we're talking here and we're all stuttering. You can just film me, and that's something that can go in the media, Airtime constraints, that's one of my favorite topics. I think we could do a thesis on that, the relationship we have with time. So there's this idea that it's possible to design show formats that are more flexible. It's really the problem is the relationship and the cultural relationship we have with time. I would like to focus my PhD on that only, And inclusive schools, so there's this idea that advocacy organizations, so people who stutter and ally, and then artists' unions can join forces to develop training for schools to be more inclusive. And addressing the broadcaster biases, this is one of my favorite points as well, because there's this theme in the interviews that, well, who is the audience? We're always talking about, the audience is not ready, we should not take that risk, but who is the audience? It's you and me, it's people who are more used to disability than we think. We have to trust the audience. And if you really fear that there's a risk, there's filming techniques, or how you use the music or the sound to empower the representation. Next slide, please. So to come back to Michel Tremblay and Les Belles Sœurs, he didn't do a thesis on how to integrate joual in a play. He just did it. He wrote the play, it was presented, and it existed. And so we can do the same thing, and we are doing this today, which is very powerful. We can take the stage, we can take the space because we exist. And so, next slide. So we're going to stop being ashamed, and we're going to make everyone speak like they do in real life, make everyone stutter like they do in real life. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. So this song that I am about to sing is a song that I wrote and actually composed, and I don't have a name for it yet, so just bear with me. Where do I go from here? How do I disappear? How do I run from fear? Left feeling obscure and so far from that open door. It's a pain when words they can't escape, and it's hard to play such a charade. I hold my tongue until it's sore, can't seem to say nothing more. Don't know how much more I could take. And my heart, yes, it breaks, it breaks. Oh, it breaks, it breaks. Incessantly stigmatized, hard to read between the lines of who I am through someone else's eyes. It's a pain when words they can't escape, and it's hard to play such a charade. I hold my tongue until it's sore, can't seem to say nothing more. Don't know how much more I could take. And my heart, yes, it breaks, it breaks. Oh, it breaks. In time, I know I'll find all that I need, all that my heart needs to know. In time, I know I'll find all that I need, all that my heart needs to know. It's a pain when words they can't escape, and it's hard to play such a charade. I hold my tongue until it's sore, can't seem to say nothing more. Then there's no need to cry. My heart can spread its wings and fly. Thank you.
It is an endless source of creativity, and I can harness that creativity whenever I want. I feel almost lucky as an artist and designer to have a subject matter that feels almost limitless and instantly accessible.
My name is Lydia Brubaker. And I never thought I'd be saying that to a crowd this big. I've been a covert stutterer my whole life. My stuttering acceptance journey only began about 2 years ago. And it all started when I happened upon Jerome Ellis's article, who you'll have the pleasure of seeing perform later tonight. The article is titled "The Clearing, Music, Dysfluency, Blackness, and Time." In that article, they write, stuttering, especially in the form I present with, the glottal block, creates unpredictable, silent gaps in speech. I call these gaps clearings. When this happens while I'm speaking with someone, I often feel like time has stopped. A fluent speech, and by extension fluent time, is a path through a forest. When I stutter, I come into a clearing, where the path temporarily disappears. The clearing opens the present moment. But when my interlocutor interrupts me while I'm stuttering, this expanded present is foreclosed. When I read that, I was so moved by this idea that my most vulnerable, embarrassing moments of stuttering that I dreaded the most, like introducing myself, could be something powerful and beautiful where people gather with me in that moment rather than mortifying. That I could introduce myself and stutter for as long as I want and as I need, and that I could feel empowered afterwards instead of horrified. I quickly changed the entire trajectory of my film studies grad school career from horror studies to stuttering. I ran with this idea of stuttering and time, the time we take up, the time we create. I started looking for characters in movies who stutter, searching for an example of this feeling of the clearing. I wanted to see someone who talks like I talk, but I was coming up empty. As Jen talked about earlier, there's not a lot of characters in media who stutter. And the most famous ones, as I'm sure most of us know, are made fun of. They exist to be the punchline of a joke. But eventually, I stumbled upon a movie from 1993 called There Are No Children Here. I rented a VHS copy from a different library and watched it in my school library. It stars a young black boy who in one scene is stuttering through his very important speech in front of his whole school. He stutters the whole time, and no one makes a sound. Everyone, hundreds of people, are just listening. When he finishes the speech, everyone applauds and is so proud of him and happy for him. When I watched that, I think I was like 24 in my school library, crying. It healed something in me that I didn't know needed healing. And that was the first time I felt that feeling of the gathering in the clearing. I then based my master's thesis on that scene and that film and Jerome Ellis's work about dysfluency, blackness, and time. I started to see the clearing as a powerful tool to reframe ideas of taking up too much space or too much time. And I started asking questions in my research, like, what would happen if everyone didn't interrupt people who stutter? How could that space and time that our speech patterns create be transformative and inventive and even collaborative? How could my stuttering create new time? But in my real life, I had still never felt the clearing. Up until last year, age 24, I had literally never not been interrupted or laughed at or mocked when I stuttered. So for me, the first step was allowing myself to open the clearing instead of hiding my stutter. Rather than anxiously and covertly filling that empty space with filler words like I had to let it go and experience these silent, unpredictable gaps in my speech and embrace it as part of me. Now, when I am in the clearing with somebody, when I am stuttering or blocking or making no noise at all, and they are listening and attentive and present, it feels just like time slows down. It feels like the rest of the world just slowed to a halt, except this moment. It feels like the deepest breath I've taken all day. It feels like a short reprieve from the fast-paced buzz of the fluent world. It feels like meditation. The clearing is the opposite of shame. When my listener gathers in the clearing with me, staying present and attentive, rather than checking their phone, or giving me a look, or finishing my sentence, it disrupts and redefines my understanding of listening. The clearing becomes a gathering place to imagine new worlds and new temporalities where everyone gets to feel this heard and this seen all the time. The feeling I had at age 24, sitting in that college library, watching that scene, I want every person who stutters to be able to experience that. I want it to be normal to see and hear and experience uninterrupted stuttering that opens time. Something Jerome has said in a few of their talks is that they see their stutter as a precious family heirloom passed down to them from their mother. And that idea really stuck with me and inspired me to create this collage based on the way that I characterize my stutter. So I'm going to end with that. My stutter is an oversized, raggedy t-shirt passed down from a cousin of a cousin of a cousin of a cousin. I didn't outgrow it as a child, but rather I had to grow into it. Thank you.
dance was always like that space where I could finally take a breath and go. Then go. Let me tell you how I feel in this, you know, non-verbal communicative way. Non-verbal communicative way. Verbal communicative. Then go. Then go. Take a breath. Then go. How do we define what a stutter is? And it's, you know, it's about, you know, hearing for you know, repetitions, elongations of sound, cutting off of sound at like, you know, sudden moments. There's moments of pause and silence, quote unquote silence, you know. We could have that conversation too. Sound, cutting off. Sound, cutting off. Sound, cutting off. Sound, cutting off. Moments of pause. Moments of pause. 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 Moments. Pause. Pause.
I like to think of stuttering as a companion, someone or something else that's with me, that's kind of primordial, like a quiver that happened in the universe and manifested as this voice and this body. But it's not always been easy. It's changed a lot over the years. And I'm just coming into a relationship of acceptance with it.
Silent screams, locked in my chest. Stuttering steps, a hesitant pace. I struggle to speak, a fragile face. In the mirror, I see a stranger's gaze, a reflection of shame, a hesitant pace. I try to articulate, but the words flee, leaving me lost, the sea of uncertainty. But I've learned to cherish this unique beat, this rhythm that is mine, this unique repeat. So I speak with stuttering pride. For in the silence, I have found my voice. And in stuttering, my soul has made its choice. Thank you. My second poem is called I Am. I am the trees that swing and sway at night, along with all the hidden, deep, dark secrets. I am the fallen fruit of the peach tree, waiting to be harvested. I am the loner wolf in the jungle who stands alone. I am the breezy wind that sweeps away all of the negativity, which makes the sunshine a little bit brighter. I am the fish in the deepest depths of the ocean, waiting for longing. I am happy. I am happily Olivia. Thank you.
has my voice unique. Our voices has my voice unique. Our voices belong to me. Has my voice unique. Our voices has my voice unique. Our voices belong to me. Has my voice unique. Our voice unique. Has my voice unique.
This is the sound of me speaking. Is this my voice? Does my voice even belong to me? Or do each of our voices belong to me? Belong to everyone?
Do each of our voices belong to everyone?
Everyone.
Thank you so much for being a part of this. Can we get another round of applause? There will be a brief 15-minute break before a special performance by Jerome Ellis with excerpts from his new work, Aster of Ceremonies. We encourage you to stick around for it. It will be very special. And just a note that this performance is at capacity, so please be sure to reserve your seat in some way if you plan on staying. And please make sure to check out our installation in the next room, next door to the theater, which features stuttering art from artists all around the world. It is truly extraordinary to interact with, so thank you everyone here for listening.
SPACE is a nonprofit organization which survives by the generosity of individual donors. Please consider donating to SPACE, which will allow us to create more space for stuttered voices. There's a QR code on a poster in the installation room next door. For those of you who are at home, please go to the SPACE website at spacetostutter.org. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. Good evening. I am Jerome, and can we have another round of applause for all the amazing performers? I am really just speechless after witnessing everyone, and so grateful. I am standing on a stage. There is on the stage some musical instruments, a piano, a saxophone, a hammered a dulcimer, some computers, some microphones, and behind the stage is a screen. On the screen is projected an image of a plant, a branch of a plant that was made. The image was made by the artist Mary Walcott, and it shows it's dyed in purple, the image, and it shows flowers and leaves and buds about to become flowers. Above the image is text in black that reads, "No book, all stutters." And at the bottom is text in purple that reads, "Elder chokeberry, Aronia arbudifolia." Chokeberry and Aronia arbudifolia are two names for this plant, and I use the word elder to convey respect for plants and all that they are and do in the world. On the audience's left side of the room is Toli, one of our ASL interpreters for the evening, who I'd love to thank and applaud. And Johnny as well, who is not here, but who was interpreting the previous amazing performance from SPACE. Thank you, Toli. And there is an audience gathered in the Susan and John Hess Family Theater, and beautiful purple light on the walls created by Gabe, in charge of the lighting. Thank you, Gabe. And I am a black person who stutters. My skin is brown. My hair is black. My beard is black. I'm wearing a pink dress, kind of like a salmon color. And my wife Louisa's sandals, which are gray, olive green. I miss my wife Louisa very much. We live in Virginia. And I love her so much, and I love to wear her sandals. It feels like she is here with me and that I'm walking with her. And this garment I love is, hi Lydia. It's such an honor to meet you, first of all, and I really love what you said about your stutter as a oversized, raggedy T-shirt from a cousin of a cousin of a cousin. I thought that was so beautiful, and it helps me think about this garment that I'm wearing, which it is very it's very roomy and very soft, and I got it at the thrift store, so it has been loved and used by other people, and it helps me a lot, especially when I am dealing with anxiety, which I deal with a lot. And it helps to just ground and calm me. And last but certainly not least is Hildegard, who is a stuffed hippo sitting on the piano. She is lavender, and her little hooves are also lavender. She is my service animal. I travel with her wherever I go. My younger brother, Kelvin, gave her to Louisa and I for Christmas, and she has quickly become very important in my life and our life. And she's a little top heavy, so you have to kind of lean her back, or else she'll fall off the piano. So she's up here with me. So this performance is, as Spring very kindly, is Spring here? Well, Spring, thank you very much for very kindly introducing Aster of Ceremonies. This is it's a book, and so I'll be showing some on the screen. I'll be showing some pages of the book. I'll show the cover, which was designed by Mary Austin Speaker. I think the cover is so beautiful. The screen now shows the cover, which has a light purple background and another image of plants on it. This one is by the artist Sydenham Edwards, and it shows an aster flower. They look kind of like daisies. They have purple petals and a yellow center and green leaves. And the text on the cover reads, Aster of Ceremonies, Poems, Jerome Ellis. And this book was published by Milkweed Editions, who's based in Minneapolis. They are so amazing. I highly recommend their entire catalog. And I'm so grateful to the whole team, Mary Austin Speaker, Tikwa Diker, they both did the design, Chris Martin, who edited the book, Bailey Hutchinson, who stewarded the whole process, and my wife Louisa, who meticulously copy edited the more than 1,000 plant names that appear in the book. Louisa is, among many things, a poet and a plant ecologist, and she runs a community science facility and research center in Norfolk, Virginia, where we live, that's devoted to studying sea level rise. She's amazing. So I'm going to just share some of the book, and I think one way of one way of maybe entering it is this question that I was so moved to observe flowing throughout the performances that we just witnessed. This question of what is a stutter, what is stuttering. I love what is Chris here? Schuyler? I love what Chris said about the answer to that question always changing and being different for everyone. The book, one of the answers that I feel like I encountered in creating the book was to the question, what is stuttering for me, is it is as you so kindly said, Lydia, a precious family heirloom that I inherited from my mother. And through that, it becomes if an heirloom is a way that is something that you can hold, that can connect you with your ancestors, that is one of the things that my stutter is for me. And as many people in the African diaspora feel, I think, the question of ancestry is very complicated and comes with for me, a lot of grief. I know that my mom is from Jamaica, and my dad is from Grenada. But once we cross the Atlantic back to Africa, I have no idea where any of my ancestors lived, what religion they practiced, what languages they spoke. And so my stutter has gradually become for me a point of departure to practice ancestry and to approach questions around ancestry in different ways. The slide up right now is a beginning of one of the poems in the book that reads, "Give me a speech impediment that I may live. Give me a speech impediment that I may give notice." And the next slide reads, "Give me a speech impediment that I may notice asters." And the word aster is in purple, as do throughout the book, all the names of plants appear in purple. I was raised in the church, and I remember as a child being moved by how in some versions of the New Testament, the words of Jesus appear in red as a form of respect. So I wanted to pay respect to plants who nourish me in so many ways with a color. The title of the book, Aster of Ceremonies, and the significance of asters throughout, comes in part from, is rooted in a practice that I learned in speech therapy, that my speech therapist, Dr. Bajoyan, taught me. You might call it soft contact is one of the terms for it. She told me that if I were stuttering on a syllable that required my lips to meet, like a B or a P or an M, I could try saying that syllable very softly. And so if I were stuttering on the word brain, one option I had available to me was to say the B, try to say the B very, very softly, and so the word could come out sounding like rain. And if I were stuttering on the word master, the M could fall away to reveal this flower, the aster. So I wanted to follow the stutter in this way, to follow the way that that stuttering can shape language and reveal different parts of language that I may not have encountered were it not for the stutter, to open one of the many presents that I feel that my stutter is always offering me. So I'm skipping some slides here. There's a lot of stuff. So their slide now says poet Amnor Bessie Philip Zong, and then in quotes, telling the story that can't be told. So one of my teachers in this work, my guides, is the poet Amnor Bessie Philip, who in her book Zong, which was published in 2008, she, in her words, she tries to tell the story that can't be told. And this story is the story of a horrific massacre of Africans aboard a slave ship in the 18th century. And the only written document we have of this event is a legal document. That's an insurance case between the ship captain and the ship owner, suing each other, claiming that the people that they had killed are cargo. And so she asks, when this is the documentation, how do you tell the story? And one way that she approaches it in the book is as she says, she locks herself inside of the text and rearranges the words of the document and creates anagrams of those words and creates a whole book of poetry by essentially shattering the text. And so I wanted to follow her method and apprentice myself to it. And the documents that I found are newspaper notices that were placed by bless you. That were placed by enslavers in 18th century, 19th centuries, in the UK, in the US, Latin America, in the Caribbean. And these notices that they would place when the people that they were enslaving escaped. They're sometimes called runaway slave advertisements. And there are many of these that concern people who, enslaved people who stutter. And when I first encountered these advertisements in May of 2020, I felt a sense, I felt a desire to connect somehow with these enslaved ancestors who stuttered. Even though they were not blood ancestors of mine, I felt a desire to approach them as spiritual ancestors, as Black people who stuttered and who carried this form of speaking and this form of being. And then when I encountered advertisements from Jamaica, I would read about these enslaved ancestors and think there is a very small but a real chance that one of them is a blood ancestor of mine. And one of my blood is here today, who I want to honor, my Aunt Clover, who has always been, before I could even speak, an inspiration to me, Aunt Clover. Just the way that you live, the way that you listen, the way that you love, the way that you just are so true to yourself. So I am very, very grateful that you're here, very honored that you're here. Thank you for being my guide for my entire life. So I would encounter these ancestors in these ads from Jamaica and feel this, again, this even closer sense of ancestry. So I wanted to apprentice myself again to M. Bessie Phillips' method by experimenting with rearranging the words of these advertisements, approaching this archive, these documents that, of course, are documents of violence, and also they document real people and their actions. So the slide here says, Benediction, Movement 1 of the Choir Chants. This is a part of the book, and I wanted to call it a benediction for two main reasons. One is because the root meaning of the word is good speech, and I think other people who stutter have felt and feel at times that my speech is not good. So I wanted to approach that word in a different way. And it's also the name of a prayer that my grandfather, Clover's father, my mother's father, who passed away in 2020, he was a reverend, and it's the last prayer that he would say at the end of the service. It's called the benediction prayer. And I remember as a child growing up in this church feeling very, very grateful for the prayer. I loved the language of it. I loved hearing my grandfather speak it, and I also loved that it meant that the service was ending, and that we could go. This is like Jamaican Baptist, a Pentecostal tradition, which is very beautiful, but not known for being brief. in the services. And as a child, I was grateful. And he would say the prayer, and then he would walk slowly down the aisle to the back. And when he reached the back, then the service was over, and I could go eat my grandmother's food and take off my little bow tie. So I wanted to carry my grandfather and my aunt Cynthia, who now is the pastor, with me. So the next slide, the text appears in italics and it reads, "Where is the prose that will house our rigor? Where is the prose that will house our stoppage?" And all the text that appears in italics in this part of the book are words that are taken directly from these runaway slave advertisements, or parts of words. So stoppage is a word that is sometimes used to describe a stutter, a stoppage in speech, and the word prose is part of the word prosecute, which appears a lot. The next slide reads, "Where is the prose that will house our living? Where is the prose that will house our clothing?" And the word clothing is spelled C-L-O-A-T-H-I-N-G because that's how they spelled it in the ad. Then the next slide reads, not in italics, "What name did ancestor Lucy call herself? We do not know. We honor her relationship to her own name. According to the advertisement, she, quote, ran away on March 19th, 1797, on or near land and water traditionally stewarded by, among others, the Sioux people, also known as Charleston, South Carolina. We honor the holiness of her speech and of her whole being. We thank all the plant elders for creating the oxygen she breathed. Another thing that I've been guided by Eminor Bessie Phillip is she writes about the mother tongue and the father tongue. And for me, if the father tongue is English, the language of many things, including of the colonizer and the enslaver, what is my mother tongue? And for me, my stutter is my mother tongue, not just having inherited from my mother, but as a bridge, however fragile, to the languages of my ancestors. Again, I don't know what languages my African ancestors spoke, but in the stutter and in the blocks, in the clearings, as you said, Lydia, I have begun to think of those spaces as also a space of honoring the silence of those languages that I can't access, of the ancestors. The text returns to italics. The stutters may endeavor to return to the creek. Stutters born before April was born. Oh, and I also want to say hello to everyone online and thank you all for joining. I'm going to skip this one. The next slide reads, the arbor of maybe made I. Oh, well, maybe this makes a little more sense if I won't skip. I will keep going. This slide reads, stutters may be before speaks. May be before April. Return may be before quest. Our reward is being in quest of stutters. There's a footnote here that reads, thank you, James Harrison Monaco, for helping me hear this. James is my closest and oldest friend and an amazing artist. Is a stutter an arbor of maybe? The arbor of maybe made I into our. And then the text switches to brackets out of italics and reads, the drip comes out onto the porch of melisma in the sun on a new morning. For anyone who might not be familiar, melisma is a word that refers to like vocal runs when a singer sings more than one syllable per note. And in the book, these sections in brackets act as a score for music or a description of music. And on the audiobook version, instead of reading these parts, I play music, saxophone, etc. And because I'm here with you all today, I can do that too. So I'll put together my saxophone. And then at the bottom, back to italics, it reads, the art of the stutter is to give away being on time. The art of the stutter is to utter in time, not on time. There's another footnote that reads, I'm so grateful to you, Ia Milta Vega Cardona, for teaching me about being in time. Ia Milta is a mentor of mine. And then there's another score that reads, tonal sleep, to drop, perhaps under swimming. There's a text in quotes that reads, stammers, a little. This is from one of the advertisements. And then more text in brackets. Therefore, the plumb line hanging from J-wing swings through syllable, clouds of syllable, a shred of not knowing. So now I'm going to skip to movement 2. Many slides are going to fly by. Here we go. So movement 2 of the benediction begins with this quote from the scholar Valentina Ismailieva: "The proper name of God is a list." And then benediction movement 2, octave, the choir chants. And then the next slide, the text changes entirely to purple and begins, "We belong to you, Elder New Jersey T, Cenothus Americanus. We revere you, Elder Big Cordgrass, Spartina, Sinus Soroides. We praise you, Elder Late Flowering Boneset. We worship you, we bow before you, we listen to you." It's a long prayer to about 1,000 plants, all preceded by the word elder, that grow in and around and have grown in and around for many, many years. Charleston, South Carolina. And I wanted to make this prayer as part of practicing relation with another enslaved ancestor who stuttered. Her name, according to the advertisement, was Betsy, and she lived and escaped in and around Charleston. A lot of the advertisements are very brief. They were very expensive to place, often, usually just like a paragraph long. So I wanted to make something that responded to that often brutal brevity with something long. And thinking also about the ways that, as everyone so eloquently talked about and expressed in different ways in the performances, people who stutter often don't have enough time to speak. So I wanted to give myself enough time on the page. So it takes up about 25 pages or so of the book. And then it's interspersed with the song whose lyrics are composed from the advertisement concerning ancestor Betsy, as well as 7 other advertisements from the same newspaper issue, concerning things like somebody lost an umbrella or somebody is selling some land. And I wanted to think about the practice in some forms of the church of what are called octaves, 8-day periods of honoring a saint. So I'm going to sing the song. Carrying the body. The music is notated in a specific form of musical notation often used for chant, where the notes are given but the rhythm is left up to the singer or the musician so that they can move in their own time.
Each kernel of coffee has a name. Each green morning has a name. Each consequence, each no. Each yellow window that rings with evening. Has a name. Each name has a name written inside. Stutter's libraries of river literature. No, it sees as to which questions no, it's season to be empty. No, it's season has covered which questions no, it's season to be full. Which for paper and which for sin. Which for ribbons and which for less. Which for book and which for glass.
tea and reach for coffee. Reach for swamp and reach for river. Which to be lost in, and which to know the time. Which for the umbrella, and which for the umbrella to belong.
I'll close with a brief rendition of a song that my mother and my grandparents taught me. And singing this song has been long a practice of continuing to practice ancestry.
lonely and longing for home. Where is my portion? Constant friend, the eyes of the sparrow, and I know the eyes on the sparrow, and I know should I feel discouraged? And why should shadows come? And why should I be lonely and long for when is my boss, a constant friend, the eyes on the sparrow, I see, I see, I see, because I'm happy. I sing because I'm
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. I just want to thank so many people here at the Whitney and with SPACE. The list is very incomplete, but I want to thank Andrea, Haley, Kat, Tim, Rowan, Adrian, Gabe, Daima, Megan, Bojana, Laura, and all the performers, Spring, Chris, Derick, Ezra, Mira, Carmelo, Jen, LJ, Lydia, Liiam, Olivia, Luke, Toli, and Johnny with ASL, and all the cart folks, and everybody else who I have forgotten. Thank you.